I'll give you 3 guesses what we're going to be doing in this video today. Lucky guess. That's right, we're gonna be trying vegan mac and cheese. I have 7 different vegan mac and cheeses here, and today we're gonna be tasting them to decide which one we prefer. There are a few things quite so comforting and reminiscent of childhood as boxed mac and cheese. I'm looking for a mac and cheese that is super rich, creamy, salty, cheesy, and has a good tasting noodle. Additionally, in case we don't find one here, I've got a box of plain pasta and we can try making our own. So most of these pastas have you make the pasta and then make the sauce by using non-dairy milk, adding the cheese powder, and adding a butter replacement optionally as a richer option. Of course, I will always be adding that butter replacement when suggested. The exceptions are this Upton Deluxe Cheesy Mac and our Daiya Cheddar. Deluxe Macs will have the little silver pouch with the sauce already made up in it, so you don't need to add anything. They are also typically more expensive. I will put the prices that I paid for each of these boxes on the screen when I do the tasting. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and make up 7 boxes of mac and cheese. Be right back. Something I feel like tasting videos never show you is how ridiculous it is to make 7 boxes of macaroni at once. You know, all the different cook times, the sauces, making sure nothing burns, making sure nothing boils over. It's a bit of a circus, and I'm gonna follow suit and also not show you that. Starting off with Kraft white cheddar mac and cheese. And until I bought these at the store, I did not know Kraft made a mac and cheese, but they've partnered with Notco, and they have 2 boxes that I know of vegan mac and cheese now. This is the white cheddar flavor. The shells are really well coated in that shiny white sauce. There are a couple things I want to note before I try it. Firstly, the Kraft mac and cheeses have you add about twice the amount of vegan butter as any of the other ones. So it's definitely a higher fat option. The other thing I will say is when I was cooking it, when I added the cheese sauce, it gave off this smell that I know quite well. It occurs in some brands of vegan cheeses and it must be a specific flavor they add, but it almost smells a little bit like spoiled milk. It's a little bit off-putting. But again, as long as it tastes good, I don't really care. The sauce is very rich. It's, could maybe be like a tiny bit saltier, but it's pretty good. I would say it's more creamy than cheesy, but I think that's often the case in mac and cheese, even dairy mac and cheeses. It has a good flavor. I taste a tiny bit of that spoiled milk smell, but not much at all. The noodles are doing a really good job holding onto the sauce. I think this is a pretty good mac and cheese. Next, Annie's mac and cheese. This is the sweet potato pumpkin version, so it actually is not necessarily trying to mimic a cheese, which is interesting and unusual. The sauce is definitely a little less gloopy and a little thicker, but it is coating the noodles well. If you are very concerned with protein intake, the Annie's and the Daiya have less protein than many of the other ones. This one has 15 grams for the entire box. Cheers. I've had this one before. Honestly, it's not my favorite. It definitely tastes like macaroni and pumpkin sauce, you know? Honestly, I think if they just added some nutritional yeast, it would be a little bit cheesier and a little less root vegetable-y, but it's not unpleasant. It's just not very mac and cheesy, you know? Goodles mac and cheese. So Goodles is definitely one of the higher protein options out there, but something that I noticed that felt a bit sneaky is that while every other box of a similar size is 6 ounces, this one is actually only 5 1/4. And it definitely looks like it's a similar size, but it's a bit smaller. And I will say when I was putting my leftovers into containers, it was noticeable. Whereas the other ones, I could put them into 2 containers and then like fill it out with some veg. This one definitely just needed its own container because there was not enough to justify using 2 containers of it. Goodles uses this spiral design pasta, which takes a little bit longer to cook, but definitely seems to hold the sauce quite well. I think Goodles also has another 1 or 2 vegan options. They did not have it at my store, but I do think they exist. So I think this is a protein pasta. It tastes not quite like pasta, a little grainier. Yes, it has chickpea protein, wheat protein, and then a bunch of, I guess like added vitamins essentially. Not my favorite thing, but not horrible. The sauce though is quite good. It's a little bit saltier than the other ones I've tried so far. It has a bit more umami. I saw they use actual cashews in it, which I think maybe helps with the creaminess. I will say this is the best sauce so far. I definitely grew up eating a lot more white cheddar mac and cheese, and this feels the closest to that. It's not really like my favorite noodle, but I do really enjoy the flavor. Time for some Daiya. Now Daiya is a vegan company, which we love. It has the lowest protein content of the bunch, and it is gluten-free. This is the only gluten-free pasta we have today. I will say that even though it's supposed to have a very comparable amount to the Upton mac and cheese in terms of ounces, they're both 10.5 and 10.6 ounces, this one really seemed to make more, and I wonder if the rice pasta is maybe a little bit lighter, so it's spread it out more. Also got this really bright orange color. When I put the sauce on the noodles, it definitely gave Velveeta vibes. The cheese was quite thick, quite homogenized, really bright orange. So if you were looking for the closest Velveeta replacement, I would say, at least visually, this is it. There's a little bit of a sweetness to that. And if you've watched a lot of my videos, you'll know that that's not really a positive thing from me. I do feel like it's really going for Velveeta vibes, and I've never really liked Velveeta cheese either, so maybe that tracks. The pasta is really good. I am not distracted by the fact that it's gluten-free. I enjoy it. It does feel a little bit lighter in a weird way, somehow, despite being drowned in this very gooey, slightly sweet, cheesy sauce. This one was, like, I think, a little bit more on the expensive side because it's the Deluxe mac and cheese, which I've gathered means it comes with a sauce package and you don't have to add any milk or butter. Would I get this again? It would not be my first choice. But if you like Velveeta, maybe try this one. Maybe add a little bit more nooch. I will say when I'm not tasting for a video, I do almost always add a little bit more nutritional yeast to my boxed mac and cheeses. Let's come back with another Kraft. This is the original flavor. Same deal with the Not Co, Not Cheese brand collab. Very similar ingredients. You can see it's got that really gooey sauce. Again, this one had you add a 1/4 cup of vegan butter, which is twice as much as the other brands. It looks nice and rich because of that. I like that a lot less than the white cheddar version. It's got a lot more of that sweetness that I was just talking about with the Daiya. Again, it's not terrible. Would it be better with a bunch of nutritional yeast and some hot sauce? Yes, it would. Between this and the Daiya, I would pick the Daiya, although they do give me kind of similar vibes. Now we're on to the Upton's Deluxe mac and cheese, or cheesy mac. Now this one, you actually don't need to boil the noodles. You can do this all in the microwave. Is probably why these noodles look kind of flattened. The Upton and the Daiya were the 2 that I got with the cheese packages included. And comparatively, the Daiya's was much more homogenized and thick. This one came out almost like in chunks with sort of like watery bits in between, which I would say was visually less appealing. But if you look at the ingredients in it, they're incredibly simple. Cornstarch is, I think, the only thickener I'm seeing. So with fewer ingredients added to sort of homogenize that sauce, this is the result. And you know, once it's cooked, it all comes together pretty well. I would first like to say that Upton's Natural is also a vegan company, which we love, which we really enjoy. The sauce, it's not my favorite. One of the more predominant flavors I'm getting right now is mustard, actually. It's a bit cheesy. It's more mustardy. I actually like the smell more than I like the taste. It is also one of the higher protein options, And I think it definitely has the simplest ingredients of any of the pastas we've looked at. So if either of those are priorities for you, this is a good option. Just be aware, I don't think the predominant flavor is cheese. I think the predominant flavor is vaguely umami with mustard sauce. Last up, we have another one of the Annie's, and this is their vegan mac cheddar flavor. So unlike the other one, which was pumpkin flavored, this one is actually supposed to taste like cheese. And does it? Oh, I'm just seeing for the first time that Annie's also makes one of those deluxe mac and cheeses with the sauce included. But I did not see that, and I've never seen that. So I will be keeping my eyes out. But if you have found it, let me know. How is it? Let me know how it compares to the other deluxe vegan mac and cheeses out there. For now, we're trying the vegan mac cheddar flavor. It's got a nice orange color, not the brightest of all. Sauce looks good, not quite as rich as, say, the Kraft. I think if you wanted to, you could get that same level of Kraft richness in many of these just by adding more butter. And when I say butter, y'all, I always mean vegan butter, okay? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. You know, it has like a bit of a flavor that I think is kind of signature to this and the other Annie's mac. Not quite sure what it is, but I would say compared to, say, the Kraft mac and cheese that I think is similar in shape and color, this is much tastier to me. It doesn't have that same sort of uncanny sweetness to it. It's cheesy. It's rich. It tastes like boxed mac and cheese. Would it also be better with more nutritional yeast and hot sauce? Yes, pretty much every mac and cheese would be better with more nutritional yeast and hot sauce. But it is definitely up there in my favorites. The other one that I would say is up there in my favorites is the Goodles. I'm still kind of annoyed at them for their little 5.25 ounce scheme that they seem to be pulling. It does kind of feel like they're trying to trick you into thinking it's cheaper by adding slightly less to it. And the noodles are not my favorite, but the sauce is good enough for me to overlook those things. It's just kind of punchier than any of the other white cheddar options. Although I did not hate the Kraft white cheddar option either. I wanted to like the Daiya. I didn't really like the Daiya. The Upton Foods I thought was kind of fun, but it didn't taste as cheesy as I would like, but I appreciate the minimal ingredients and that this can be made without using a stove. Our other Annie's, the vegan mac sweet potato and pumpkin option, it just doesn't do anything for me. I would pick the cheddar option over the sweet potato option pretty much every time. But now that we've tasted what's out there on the shelves, let's see what we can make in our kitchen. I'm gonna show you how I make mac and cheese. Quite simply, it will take less than 5 minutes after you've made your pasta. I will say I've always done this by taste. I've never measured any of it before, so I will do my best to get you some estimates of how much I'm using. Another option, which I won't be doing today, is to make a cashew sauce, which incredibly delicious and incredibly simple, but it does involve breaking out the blender, and I think for an easy box mac and cheese equivalent, you don't want to be blending things. So we will be skipping that one today. We've got our pasta made, and into our pan, I'm gonna add just about 2 tablespoons of vegan butter. I'm also gonna add about 3 to 4 tablespoons of fermented tofu. Now this one's a little bit pink in color because it was canned in a red yeast dressing, but you can use any fermented tofu and just lightly rinse off whatever it was canned in, and it should taste, you know, roughly the same. We're just gonna plop this into our pan as well. Look for fermented tofu at Asian grocery stores in the jars and cans. It adds an amazing vegan cheesy umami flavor. Unlike regular tofu, as this heats up, it's not going to sear, it will just melt. Next, let's add about 1/2 cup of oat milk or other plant-based milk, as well as about 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. I might want a little bit more, but we're gonna start there. And then we're just gonna bring this up into a light simmer so everything melts together. The fermented tofu does melt down, but you might wanna use the back of your spatula a little bit to break up any large chunks. I changed my mind already. Let's do 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast. I love nutritional yeast. Although it is plenty cheesy already, let's just add more. Beautiful. Now let's add our pasta. I actually made a whole pound of macaroni. And the last thing we're gonna add is a little bit of our pasta cooking liquid. That should just thicken everything up and integrate it all really nicely together. I'm using about 1/4 cup. We've got all our noodles cooked. Now, of course, you could add garlic powder for a little garlicky flavor, or you could add chives or, frozen peas, whatever you'd like to add to make your mac and cheese taste a little bit special. But today we're gonna be keeping it very simple and just leaving it here. And let's give our homemade mac and cheese a taste. I made a lot more of it than the other ones because I always just make a whole pound when I'm making pasta. Much cheesier than many of them. I didn't add any salt because fermented tofu is pretty salty, but I actually think it could use just the tiniest bit. Just that tiny bit of salt really did improve it. Very cheesy, very creamy. It's got a bit more funk than most of them from the fermented tofu, which is cheese reminiscent, but definitely like a little bit on the funky side. It's also definitely my favorite mac and cheese that I tasted today, but there were several that I thought were pretty good. And that is it. Thanks for hanging out with me today while we try all the vegan mac and cheeses that I could get my hands on. Let me know in the comments which one your favorite is, or if you just prefer to make your own at home. Either way, if you could like this video, that would be great. And if you want to subscribe, you'll be the first to see next time we post. Thanks, bye. In case you're wondering what I'm doing with 7 boxes of mac and cheese, I've split the rest of them up into these little deli containers and added some things like frozen edamame, spinach, corn, and I'm just gonna freeze them and have them for some easy lunches in the future.